Welcome back to this week's Honest Art Podcast. I am talking about a topic this week that I get asked all the time, whether it's an email or it's a DM or at one of my workshops. One of the questions I get is, Jody, how can I tell if my art is ready to be sold? How can I tell if I'm ready to sell it to the public? And so on this week's podcast, I tell you several different ways that you can discern this for yourself. And I think it's really, really important that we do this because sometimes we're asking the question, is it ready to sell through a gallery? Now that's a whole different question, right? Because there's going to be different criteria there. And I talk about that in the podcast. But sometimes the question is just, is it ready to sell, like, period? Is it ready to go outside of my home and into the public? So that's what I'm talking about. So I give you several different ways to do that. But one of the things that I talk about, and this is really important, and it may not be terribly obvious, but you've got to be clear as an artist about what you're doing and to be able to talk about your art in a way that the collector or the person is able to relate back to the art. Okay. So this is especially important if you are doing something like abstract work. It's really, it's really tempting to think, well, I paint because I like it. We all like painting, right? Our work, we show up and we create this work because we like doing it. But that in and of itself is not going to help the collector connect and relate to the piece. So we've got to know at a deeper level what the painting is about at minimum. And if we can go even further and know why we are painting, that is an even deeper level for the collector to be able to connect with it. And here's an example. Years ago, I saw a painting on a wall of a chair. And I just walked by this painting tons of times. I'm like, it's a painting of a chair. I didn't connect to it very much. It was at a friend's house. And I was there pretty often. It's just a chair, right? But I asked her one time, tell me about this painting. And she shared with me that this artist loved painting chairs because chairs were so meaningful to her. They had been, when you think about it, when you think about the meaning of a chair, right? We sit around the table at dinner time. That's where we learn to connect to each other, maybe learn to connect to our family. Chairs are really, really important. Maybe at work, how are we relating to people? It's around chairs. And then, in the Jewish community, if you sit Shiva, you're sitting and honoring. It's an honoring position to be able to sit in that chair and honor this person. So when I knew the story about what these chairs meant to the artist, then I was like, oh my God, I want one of these paintings. I want one of these chair paintings. So it is really super important when you are thinking about, am I ready to sell my art? Is ask yourself the question, am I really ready to talk about what this art means to me so that I am able to relate that to the collector? Because that in and of itself is going to be one of the strongest ways for you to sell more art. So to learn about the other ways I talk about in this week's podcast, please head to your favorite podcast platform. And if you like what you hear there, I would love it if you could give me a 5-star review and just 5 stars, period, and write a review. That would be awesome. That really helps me out. If you don't like what you hear, then don't worry about it. It's no big deal. So head to your favorite platform so you can learn how to know when your art is ready to sell.